Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of 18-year-old Jami Furnandiz, who disappeared on the morning of October 18th, 1997 after dropping off her 18-month-old son Stefan around 8:30 at the Stonmore Daycare Center in Port Perry, Ontario. That day she did not make it to her high school, and she did not come back at the end of the day to collect the child. Also, her dropping off Stefan at the daycare was the last confirmed sighting, so normally Jami would call her mother every morning, though on the 15th of October she stopped doing that, so that's a couple of days before she disappeared. But the first actual hint that something was wrong was when the daycare center called her mother after the day was over, because Jami hadn't shown up to pick up Stefan. Her mother Connie went to Stonmore Daycare to pick up Stefan and then went straight to her apartment, where she noted that everything appeared to be normal, though she had a hunch right away that something was wrong. She contacted the police right away, but they did not initially share her sense of urgency, because they thought that she was just a runaway. But as time passed, they eventually did come to the same conclusion as the mother, that something was wrong. They reached out for the public's help through a press release on October 21st of that year in the Port Perry Star. Now, prior to her disappearance, Connie says that Jami was actually getting her life back in order. She was very dedicated to her young son Stefan, and also committed to obtaining her grade 10 credits. She was, of course, a young woman, described as kind, compassionate, but also too trusting. Her mother says she was actually very naive. Then, just as things were starting to turn around for her, she just vanished. Someone claimed that they had seen her on October 15th, so a couple of days before her disappearance, hitchhiking on the Simcoe Street between Port Perry and Oshawa, where she had some friends, then spending some time at a residence in Colburn Street in Oshawa, leaving at around 3:30 p.m. And that was it. While the police issued periodic updates, new information was very sparse. The only thing they really managed to get in 2001 was that they had actually confirmed that she had spent the afternoon in Oshawa at least some time. And then in September of 2001, actually on September 11th, a caller had called the Child Find Hotline, claiming to have met Jami in Calgary in late 1997. But unfortunately, this tip led nowhere other than getting the people's hopes up. Now, somebody arrested in late 2017, called Adam Strong, was found to be connected to two missing teens. Not Jami, but it did cause for the police to revisit Jami's file, wondering if maybe he was indeed connected to her disappearance as well. Adam Strong was charged with first-degree murders of 18-year-old Rory Hash, who went missing in the summer of 2017, and 19-year-old Candice Fitzpatrick, who disappeared in 2008. Though so far there is insufficient evidence to link him to her disappearance as well. And that is all the information that I have. So far the case remains unsolved, and that is why I was asked to do a reading on this using the tarot, and we're going to do that starting off with the Urban Tarot deck, which is already on the table. And for any further questions, moving on to the Deviant Moon deck, which is this one. So as per usual, I'm going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as I have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, Now, for whatever reason, I'm getting the feeling that it was actually a very quick end. I do want to say end. And from about here on, like over here, I think is where her story ended. And this is more aftermath. So let's take a look what we've got over here. Don't know exactly the story here, but we'll take a look at what we've got. Anyway, it started off here with the Seven of Swords, which is some type of deceit, followed by the Devil. And then the Three of Swords in reverse. Now, this is also one of the main reasons why I thought it was going to be very quick, at least where I thought it was over relatively fast. The scenario that popped into my head was somebody pulling over and asking her maybe, I don't know, something for a favor, or maybe suggesting that they drop her off somewhere, just being friendly, basically. And then we have the Seven of Swords, of course, showing the deceit in that situation. And I think this person is being represented by the Devil here. And the Three of Swords, in this case, a very bloody Three of Swords, may point toward their intentions always having been this type of outcome. Like they're lying through omission. There's something going on that they're not telling Jami. Maybe that they were addicted to something, that they had some darker side. They were definitely actively hiding that. And maybe also there's somebody else at work here too, because the Three of Swords, of course, can be that there is another person involved. It's often represented by a heart with three swords in it, as in there's one too many people here in this relationship type of thing. But it can also be that you're like, I don't know, missing somebody or something like that. But I think in this case, with this setting, that it is more likely that they just hid something about themselves that is almost like a third person in the situation, which could in this case be an addiction or some type of predilection that she should have known about before getting into their car or going along with them. And this led to the situation turning very dramatic very quickly. Now the next three cards seem like an attempt to make things better, and by which I mean Jami may have tried to be, I don't know, pleasant or something, because you do see here the Four of Wands, which is normally like a success, or often represented by people coming together in some type of harmony type of thing. Next to the Public Defender or the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is very willful, very fiery, so they may have tried their best to be as charming and as pleasant and non-threatening as possible, to try and appease their assailant or would-be assailants, but ultimately it leads to no good. And the Seven of Pentacles may also, like, it's called failure, and maybe this is also her in a fleeting moment thinking, okay, well, I kind of knew this might happen, but I didn't think it was going to be me, or something. Like, I've heard of things happening. But Seven of Pentacles is also like seeing things ripening on the vine. The chickens are coming home to roost. All the things that you've done in the past, the results is now here, so to speak. I just noticed that all the cards are very far off to the left. Let me just move that around a bit. There we go. Now we have a little more centered view. Okay, so second row we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is in this deck the King of Pentacles, next to the Tower. So the King of Pentacles is very methodical. They also have experience. As you can see, this Knight of Discs, we had this one in a previous reading not too long ago as well, for a similar type of person, just somebody who is not... this isn't their first rodeo, as they say, and they have a certain method. They have, I guess, heard it all before. They know all about what people will try to do in these situations, so they've thought these things over, and basically they know exactly what they want and how to get it. And then that is followed up by the Tower, which is obviously not a good sign in these types of situations. I'm also noticing with this Tower that there is almost a golden dawn in the background. There's like lots of city lights, and where there's people, where there's good things happening, etc., etc. But that's so far away. It might as well be oceans far away because of all this water and trouble that's happening right here, right now. So I feel like whatever happened to her in a fairly public place. But they may as well have been on Mars, because nobody was able to see them, hear them, or anything like that. So she must have felt very alone in that moment. And then the next thing we have here is the moon in reverse. And this is the part where I felt like she was being abandoned, like her remains were being dumped somewhere. And that was also the last for Jami. Like nobody was going to see or hear from her again at that point. And this is also the part where the assailant also rids himself of her. And maybe also any memory or thoughts of her. Like this is where the parts their part ends, and that is also strengthened by this Ace of Wands over here, which is a new initiative, a new thing happening. Maybe this is the perpetrator moving on to something else or somebody else. Maybe another person was targeted, or they just went back on their same route to look for somebody else, like that type of thing. Also interesting to note that this also has the Statue of Liberty torch in it. So one goes down and the next comes up, like that type of thing. So I'm thinking they are moving on to the next person right away. Over here we have the Universe and the Seven of Cups, and I'm not sure if this is the assailant. I feel like this is again a sign from Jami, but this is a sign from Jami after, like, the Universe in this deck is actually the world. And then we have the Seven of Cups, wishing for things to be better. Also noticing some shadowy people in the background there. I'm guessing those are like people like club patrons or something, but it can also be haunting shadows type of thing. And these two in particular make me feel like this is almost like a, we want to find her, but we can't. She could be anywhere. She could be happy. She could be sad. She could be in the middle of this dark area. She could be up in the sky. And if only we could find out more, that type of thing. Also, it kind of reminds me of this book that I had to read for school. I think it was called The Golden Egg or something like that. I'm getting that feeling of they could be anywhere and nowhere at the same time, but we just need to know what happened to them. We need to know, like, there is just this incredible need to know where in the universe they are. And in the book The Golden Egg, it was this guy, I think it was a Dutch book, so I don't know if it's translated to English, but there was this guy who went on holiday with his girlfriend to France, and then she ended up disappearing at a gas station while he was pumping gas, and she went to the bathroom or something along those lines. And he spent the rest of his life, pretty much, the rest of his life, it ended abruptly, but the rest of his life he spent trying to figure out what happened to her, being his own investigator, because apparently the law wasn't moving fast enough. And then eventually he ended up finding what we suspect is the person who took his girlfriend in the first place. And because he was so obsessed with finding out what happened to her, he basically had the murderer in this case demonstrate what he did to her by doing it to him, like that type of thing. Really gruesome. But it's kind of like that feeling that I'm getting, like, I need to know. There's just this, she could be anywhere. If only we could figure out where she was, like that type of sad desperation. But I think any sign of her alive ends, well, here, I guess, over here is where it ends, around the tower. So that actually leads us already to the next part that I always go to, and that is, are we going to find out more about this case? Are we going to find the perpetrator, find out more about what happened to her, more signs, etc., etc.? So we're going to do that with the Deviant Moon deck. See what we get. This looks like 2 cards over here. Yep. Let's see. We have the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, and this is the Nine of Cups in reverse. Okay, so there isn't a lot to go on here. We already knew that. I also read that in an article that I found on her, like the law enforcement has very little to go on. They already had a lot of questions beforehand, not much answers, and time has passed, of course, so I think next year it will be the 30th year anniversary of her disappearance, so that's a lot of time that has passed. Any trail that went cold back then is not going to heat up very quickly. Doesn't mean that there's no hope, but it's more like we're just at a very bad situation, and of course people feel very bad about that because they really want to solve this case. It's one of those cases that will haunt somebody because there's just so many questions and no answers. This little stack fell out the bottom, so I'm going to go and shuffle that separately. And it just makes them feel very uneasy, this whole thing. Okay, fine. That one then. The Five of Cups. Okay, so maybe they are looking too much at what they don't have and not so much at what they do have, which is, I'm guessing, the investigators in this case. Maybe because there are quite a few people that are on their case as well about this. Maybe they get a lot of criticism for not having more stuff to go on, or maybe not interviewing enough people, or whatever it is. People may be very frustrated with them, and instead of focusing what they do have, they are focusing mostly on what they don't have, because people keep reminding them of that. Okay. Two over here, we've got, this is the Seven of Cups in reverse. We have the Seven of Cups over here already. I guess initially there were a lot of people hoping that we're going to find something soon. We now see that that is not the case. There isn't much to do. That leads to a lot of arguing as well as internal strife with these people. Like maybe they're also questioning themselves about these things, because it's just something that keeps coming back because they just don't have anything to go on. Knight of Cups. Okay, that is, I'm guessing, focusing on their own selves or on their own emotions. Maybe there are too many people focusing mostly on their own wants and needs in this case. How that looks, I don't know. But it is tying them down in the sense of that they can't make any new plans because their mind is so focused on the negative, basically. And that is also causing for some struggle as well. It's giving Eight of Swords in that sense. This whole line of cards like just kind of stuck in a mental loop, and we're not able to walk away from that because this is all we got. Everybody keeps reminding us that this is all we got. Whenever we look at the case files, we're only looking at what we don't know, etc., etc. Now, there isn't a lot to go on. I do realize that, but maybe they do need to look more. Maybe look at some other options. I don't really know, but it looks as though they are very much stuck on what they don't have. Yes, there's a 1 sliding out the bottom. It already took quite a lot to get this one, but let's see, we have here the Page of Wands, very similar over here to the Two of Wands, so the same type of situation here. Might be doing things without thinking them through too much, maybe to do things just for the sake of doing things. Maybe occasionally also slipping up because they are walking on stilts on ice. Ice appears to be cracking, and also we're in reverse, so it could be that the things that they do try are often not as successful as they would hope. They kind of just keep running into the same wall. Oopsie, okay, there's a couple on the floor. These two, and then there's these two, or 3 actually. All right, see, Page of Pentacles. We are making some expenses here. We have the 6 of Cups in reverse. Maybe we need to let go of some old ideas that we used to have. Then we have the Knight of Wands in reverse. So maybe they are spending their resources on things that are still based on old assumptions, and that makes them act out in ways kind of like the Page of Wands was already quite careless here. We have the more advanced version here with the Knight of Wands, also just charging ahead without a abandon and seeing where we land. I think they are literally riding a flea over here as well. So they just jump, and if you've ever seen a flea land, it's very haphazard. It's definitely not very graceful, and so maybe they also just kind of keep this habit going of throwing money at things that are really not going to get much better results because they're still thinking in the same level as they did before. And I think these two are the last 2 cards. Let's put these guys down first, like that. And then we have the 8 of Wands and the 2 of Cups. Okay. So I think this is representing that they are actually going to change their methods with this investigation. Maybe after they have run into that wall often enough, they now finally go, wait, let me try something else. Let's do something else. Let's just go ahead and completely break with this previous method that we've been using with this Two of Cups in reverse. And I'm thinking that they will eventually get to that when they get some new information that's really going to make them reevaluate what they have assumed so far. Because the Eight of Wands is also about action, but it's also about messaging. And you can also see the crow there with the note. Maybe something will suddenly pop out of somewhere. Somebody has a remembrance, or I don't know, see something in a photograph of theirs. Maybe somebody took a family photo and then they find her in the background when they're like digitalizing old photos or whatever it is. But something's gonna really break this case open at some point. And as you can see, the person does not actually see the crow coming. So I think it is going to show up in the middle of their investigation when they're actually doing something else. Something else pops up that makes them go, wait a second. Let's look into that. Let's actually forget about this for a second and focus on something else here with this Two of Cups in reverse. So this is a rather shorter one than we are used to having, but I do feel like there wasn't much else to say. So I am gonna leave it at this. Regardless, I hope you found that interesting. Make sure to leave a comment and a like. That really helps the channel along. If you want to dislike, that's also allowed, obviously. And I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.